Hey everybody, welcome to In the Know with Dr. Joe. I am Joe Clark. I'm the superintendent of the South Burlington School District, and I have a treat for you. I'm new to Vermont, you know that. I came around September, and I already know there are names that are institutions here. Tuttle, Marcotte, Chittenden, Marabella. Let me add Burke, because Patrick Burke, high school principal, who has had just an outstanding influence on so many kids and families here in South Burlington. I'm so happy that you could join me today, Patrick, and thanks for being here.
Yeah, it's great to be here, Joe, and I'm glad you're here in the beautiful state of Vermont. And I know Ohio's great, but I'm sure we're going to convince you that this is an amazing place also.
It absolutely is, and you've been very helpful, especially telling me great places to eat and great sights to see and all that. So I really appreciate that. So Patrick, again, I want to go into I think everybody in the community knows you. Talk a little bit about what your history has been here in South Burlington. You've been at the high school for a long time.
I sure have. I've been there in some capacity for 29 years. So, there's still one teacher who's been there longer than I have, and that's Coach Joe McDonald, who's not only a colleague but also a good friend, and also has done has had quite an impact, as you said, and I appreciate your kind words, by the way, but has had quite an impact on the city. And he was a longtime football coach and all that, and he's an excellent PE teacher. Nonetheless, Joe is the only staff member that's been there longer than I have. The only teacher.
You're right.
Of course, Mr. Marabella.
Mr. Marabella's been here since God was a kid.
Yep. And so I had been working in Essex. I moved to Vermont in 1991 with my wife. We came here for a music festival, and we were just out of college and trying to decide where we were going to move. And I'm from New York City area. She's from the Boston area. And this felt like halfway. I don't know, 6 hours to New York, 3.5 to Boston. That was halfway.
Sure.
So, so we came up here. We decided we'd give it a shot, stay here for a couple of years, and we're still here. I worked in schools in Essex Town, which at the time was a separate school district from the Essex-Westford district. And I really liked it there a lot. And at the same time, I was coaching some high school hockey, and I decided I really was enjoying working with high school students. And so I kind of had my eye open for a high school position, had to be the right one, and a late opening popped up in South Burlington. And so kind of whimsically applied for it. I didn't really think it was going to happen, and one thing led to another, and so I started that fall, the fall of '97, at SBHS. At the time, I had one daughter. My daughter Molly was born in 1996, and I was still in my 20s actually when I came to South Burlington, and then I've been here ever since. I did a little time as a dean of students, an assistant principal, an associate principal, and then in 2001-2002 school year was when I became principal of the school.
Wow, so 24 years as principal?
Yeah, sounds right.
24,
yeah.
Wow. And what did you teach before you went into administration?
I taught basically civics at Essex Middle School. It was a class that was around law and decision making. It was super fun, actually. I was going through some old papers the other day, and I found an article that was written in the newspaper about the class, and we had visited the courthouse, and the kids were great. I really enjoyed that, and I was hoping to have some instructional responsibilities in South Burlington. Actually, that's what the ad in the paper said. With that was that I would teach a few classes and be an administrator. And I got to the school, and I was like, okay, and I'm getting onboarded with all the administrative stuff, and then, you're new, you don't want to ask too many questions or whatever. And finally I went into the principal's office, and I was like, so when do I find out what my classes are? And she was great. I loved her to this day. She's a really good mentor to me. And she was like, oh, we're not going to do that. And I was like, oh, okay. So anyway, I just kind of both feet in with on the administrative side of things, and some great years in the in the assistant principal role. I really liked that a lot. I kept coaching. I coached at CVU. I coached at South Burlington for a little while. I have the lowest winning percentage for any South Burlington High School hockey coach ever.
Congratulations on
Coach
that
Jones. Coach Jones likes to remind me of that anytime I give him suggestions for his forecheck. But
that's hilarious.
And then the principal ride has been amazing. I feel pretty fortunate.
Yeah, you and I are similar age. We both entered the field, I think, at pretty similar times. And so, being a principal for 24 years, you've seen a lot of change. I want to start with this. Do you remember when our biggest concern was like kids with pagers?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I tell the Walkman.
Oh yeah.
That was there are students now who because they don't. A lot of students, as I do, keep our music in the cloud. It's on our phones.
Right.
And so we love music. Students love music. And so now the other day I bumped into a student and he had an old Walkman, with a tape in it. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. I remember those, and I took a picture of it and I posted it on the school's social media page. It went to Facebook and Instagram. Yeah. And all of my former students who are now, in their 40s were like, oh, I had that. I remember that. And finally I kind of laughed because I was like, yeah, just so you know, we banned those too.
That's hilarious.
And so in 1994, we probably said, or 1998, we were probably like, you can't have your Walkman, you don't be walking around with your headphones. So it just goes to show you.
Yeah, things change, but things don't change.
That's right,
at all.
exactly.
What have been some of those changes that you've seen in your time there in South Burlington? Are kids different than what they were when you started?
I mean, I think so. I think fundamentally, no, right? Of course, like we're talking about, whether it's your Walkman or your cell phone or, too much, I watched too much TV when I was a kid, my parents turned the TV off, go do your homework, and now it might be the phone or the laptop or whatever. It's all, my parents were right, and people who are concerned about screen time now are right, and there's just this kind of natural push and pull, right? So those fundamental elements are the same, but I think the biggest, so in South Burlington, I think there are two fundamental changes. One is the diversity within our city has increased significantly, I would say exponentially, and for me, things that happen gradually over time. It's like the frog in the boiling water. You don't really notice it as much, and all of a sudden you turn around and you're like, "Holy cow!"
Yeah.
And for me, that has been the most exciting and the best by far development within the school community. Our racial and ethnic diversity is at a level that it's never been before, and actually, even interestingly, at a level that's not reflected across the community. So the most diverse place in the city of South Burlington on any given day are our schools.
Yeah.
And I love that, and that's amazing into itself, right? And then in terms of how students have changed, and is when I first, I'll just specifically when I first became principal, I was looking back at a few things, reminiscing, I guess, and some of my early communication was around. There were three things that I used to say. They were like a catchphrase, and it was like rigor, relevance, and relationships.
Yeah, the 3 R's.
Right. So you remember that.
Yep.
So there was a lot of. I was coming out of the National Association of Secondary School Principals. Was really focusing on that for high schools.
Yeah.
And one of the things that was within that frame around rigor was that in the 90s, I guess, when I was first principal, the senior year was kind of the year that the students would kick back. They were like, oh, it's my senior year. I'm not going to take that many classes. And boy, that's completely changed. I mean, the amount of academic engagement that our students engage in has increased significantly. And that shows up, we can look at data that will show us that. In terms of like the average number of credits that students earn prior to graduation, or the average number of courses that seniors take. We know that where it used to be 5, now it's 6, 7. And so that's been a really significant change. And then with that level of academic engagement, I'll just say it, I think our students they take academics, and look, if you're from the 90s and early 2000s, forgive me, certainly there were tons of students in those years that really got after it in the classroom. On balance, across the school, our students are, I think, much more serious academics. They contemplate their futures much more fastidiously. They seek out opportunities in and out of school that I think far exceed their similarly situated peers in previous decades. So, and some of that is, there are lots of opportunities, and the students are taking advantage of those, and some of that is, I think, just a shift.
Yeah, I want to jump into that in a little bit. I also want to ask this, because as the town, the schools have changed with diversity, places that I've been, I've always thought that today's students have never been more accepting, concerned about belonging, concerned about equity, is that a similar experience that you've had? How do our kids treat each other?
So I have always found that South Burlington High School students, and this kind of predates me, or the traditions predate my presence at the school for sure. There has always been an ethic of community-wide kindness and taking care of others that has existed within the city of South Burlington. I think that any shifts in that area would be reflective of increased awareness and empathy or sympathy for individuals in the community who are not exactly situated as you might be. And so, and it's also become really localized for us. Whereas I think, when you have a very small number of racial or ethnic minorities within your school population, or religious minority, whatever it is, within your school, you can profess to understand or to be an activist at the appropriate level around issues related to justice, and still it feels like it's somewhere else. It feels like those things are happening maybe globally or nationally. But what I see now are students who are really attuned, and this I think is what your experience is as well as what you're alluding to. I see that students are really in tune to justice and fairness and equity, not only in a community, state, nation, global standpoint, but in a school, in our lunchroom, in our classrooms, and so on our sports teams. And I've come to really appreciate that. And I think in my career, there's always times where the students become the teachers. And for me, this topic is a place where I have learned the absolute most from our student body over the years. It's really changed my life in that respect, and how I look at things, and how, if it wasn't for Isaiah Hines, I'll say his name. He was a wonderful young man. He was on our school board. He was a South Burlington High School student. I mean, he taught me how white privilege was present in our school and and it wasn't just him. It was him and others, and I've taken that with me forever. I've taken that with me everywhere I go. And and he had 3 brothers. They all came through the school. They're all different, amazing young men, and even Mike Jabor. Mike Jabor all the time. I've known Mike since he was 12.
Mike's our athletic director, activities director.
He's our athletic director. He's our activities director. He's a black man. He was raised in Vermont. He was raised in South Burlington. He was a student of mine. He's amazing at his job, and I learned from him every day. I learned from him. So I learned something from him last week. And Mike's presence in my life has been incredible, and I feel like
rock star.
Yeah,
He's
and
a rock
it's just and that's all in my own personal development. Like, it's not Mike's job
Right.
for me to get better at this stuff. But boy, he and others have really helped me make sure that I'm accounting for my privilege,
Yeah.
and I'm accounting for, and I'm looking out for these students, because I you couldn't care about them any more than I do, and we have to make sure that that all of our students are having their needs met, feel like they belong, being treated fairly.
Yeah, yeah. So I let's go back to when we were talking about opportunities for kids and that sort of thing. Somebody coined a term, or I heard a term one time called nostalgia. It's a mix between nostalgia and amnesia, where people like us, we think back to the good old days, and then when you look at it, were they really the good old days, or were they as great as we thought they were? And I know this has been an outstanding school district for decades. But you've been there through the last 29 years. How did the successes of our students and our graduates today compare to those when you were just starting out?
So it's interesting. I think one of the things that South Burlington as a community should be, in my opinion, most proud of, and the South Burlington obviously is a community that's very proud of the school system, and it has been, since the city was founded, since they built South Burlington High School, it's been a beacon of pride for the community, and it remains so. I think that, and within that, I don't have any hard data on this, so I'm just gonna.
Yeah.
The number of first-generation college-bound students that we have now, that their parents, neither one of their parents graduated from college, maybe they didn't go to college, whatever, I think is high, and I think that that's different than it had been before. I think before, if you were a student whose parents didn't go to college, you were, you might go, but you were probably likely not to. You know what I mean? Whereas now, I think that we are, through really a concerted effort, able to make sure that there's been this demystification of that process, and not just four-year traditional colleges, but the CCV to UVM pipeline is really robust now, and I think that's like the last 10 years. So, and within that frame, in terms of the nostalgia piece, I would say what was the word? It's a great word.
Nostalgia.
Yeah, nostalgia.
Nostalgic amnesia.
I think that, I had an old friend who used to say, what is it like? You'll never run as fast as you thought you did. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's
right.
like, and so I do think that there is a narrative in our world where, kids today, like school's not as hard, the teachers are easy on them, and, they're cutting them all these breaks. And then I look at what's happening in our classrooms, and I'm like, holy smokes, well, you saw it at National History Day, right? Those are ninth graders putting out, projects, and it's mind-blowing. So I think overall the academics have been, ratcheted up at a younger age, and I think people look back and say, when I was a kid, that teacher failed everybody, and that was hard or whatever.
Last week, you're right, I went to National History Day last Friday, and I saw a kid put on a presentation about lobotomies and the history of lobotomies and how they were used to kind of control women, and I was blown away.
Right.
And then the next day, I'm at the state robotics competition, where kids are building robots that are throwing balls across a court, and just absolutely amazing. None of that existed back when I first started.
That's right. And so, there are times when I hear that, the school's not as rigorous as it used to be. And I think, well, that's interesting because, my first year as principal, we had 140 students in advanced placement classes, 140 enrollments. And last year we had over 630. So, I mean, just that single data point alone, and some of that is the increased course taking of our juniors and seniors. So, and some of that is the increase and change in the curriculum to add these advanced level courses so that students can get college credit when they're in high school, which then in turn helps with our continuation rate for students. It's like, hey, look, you already have 4 AP credits. You can go to CCV for the summer plus next year. You have an associate's. Now you're ready to go to UVM or go into the workforce. And so that level of increased academic rigor, I think that might be a little lost on folks who, my age, kind of looking back, thinking that, we worked so hard.
And lessons were different. I mean, the technology's
100%.
changed the world so much. I mean, I remember as an Ohio kid having to memorize the 88 counties of Ohio in alphabetical order, and how much time we spent on memorizing that I can't tell you right now what those are. And it's just a different world, right? I mean, you were in school when you were doing those kinds of things.
That's
and now
exactly
it's more
right.
about synthesis and analysis and putting stuff into practice and solving real problems.
I think about it in our science classes, for example, and I mean, I didn't go to a school that was as good as South Burlington, so whatever. But, I remember read the chapter, answer the questions at the end. That was my homework. And then if you were, and then 4 times a year, maybe you were doing some kind of experiment. Forget it. Our science department's philosophy is that we don't want students memorizing science. We want students doing science. And so at any given day when you walk into our science classrooms, they are alive with energy. They are, Phil Sirks has got them shooting marbles across, measuring there with vernier probes, and they're putting the data into a spreadsheet and they're analyzing the data. I mean, that doesn't look like somebody memorizing a bunch of facts. And so it might even look like some kids having a good time. But the reality is they are doing science in there in a way that is, and we know this, that in a way that is much more impactful for them in the long term. Heck, if you were going to have to memorize all the counties in Ohio, and that was so important for you to be a successful person, if you memorized them all at sophomore year, and we gave you the test the night before graduation and said, Joe, if you don't get them all right, you're not graduating, you probably wouldn't have graduated.
No,
you know what I mean?
absolutely not.
So you didn't even remember them for 3 years.
Nope.
Whereas if you had learned about the scientific process through doing it, you would take that with you forever.
I saw a middle school kid yesterday at the middle school science fair, who his project was to test how ultraviolet rays impact. I can't see. I'm not even smart enough to remember the word. The chloroform, the plants changing colors and all that.
Photosynthesis.
Photosynthesis. I couldn't even remember it, but I remember learning. This kid he's in middle school, and he's talking about he ground up all the spinach and he was putting it in different bottles. It was absolutely amazing. So, Pat, we have a few minutes to go, and it's not a secret you've upset to the community now that this is going to be your last year, and I know it's a tough decision to make. You love that school, and people love you. Like I said, you are an institution. What? Just give me some thoughts about what the school's meant to you and what you hope for the future.
Well, I mean, it's hard to talk about, Joe. I just talked to the staff last week and sent something out to the students and families thereafter. And it's obviously been my professional home, but it's been more than that. And my kids grew up in that building, and my children did not go to South Burlington. We live in Chittenden East, but from the time they were literally born, my second year at the school, my daughter Anna was born. 2 years later, my son was born. So when my son was born, they announced on the PA that my son was born, and he's 24 and getting married this summer. So for my family, it's been a really special place, and that's always been true, but never more true did I really feel that community love and focus than when I got sick. And people, I could say that people stood by me. It was way more than that, and I believe, and I told this to the graduates in 2017 after the first time I got sick. I think it was their love that helped me, beat cancer. Mm-hmm. And I think that's still true. And so it's an incredible place. And I've been the beneficiary of some amazing families and community members and colleagues like yourself. And I really, I'm humbled by the experience. I've been lucky to be able to have it.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's no exaggeration how your name is synonymous with South Burlington High School. My regret coming in here, I'm blessed that I had the opportunity to spend time with you. I wish I could have spent more with you, and you know that you will always be a welcome part anytime you want to stop by. You have the keys to the kingdom. Well,
and the only other part about that too is, hey, change is good, right? And so the district is in good shape. The teaching faculty is incredible. I think whoever ends up in this position is really going to be set up for success and to look at things differently. And I think that's going to be an exciting next chapter for the school itself.
Yeah. Well, I can't thank you enough for everything that you've done, making me feel welcome as I've been here and being a mentor to me about all things Vermont and all things South Burlington and even where to get some good Vietnamese food after the taping. I'm really grateful for that. And I wish you nothing but the best. You have incredible shoes to fill. They can't be filled, but what we can do is take lessons you've taught and the tone you set at that building about caring for others and being kind and focusing on not just rigorous instruction, but also how do we treat people. That will live on forever, Patrick. So I'm grateful for you and thankful that you could be on the show and wish you all the best.
Yeah, man, it's been great. Yeah. And I love that you're doing this. And I'm looking forward to this spring. I'm not going anywhere. I hate to miss a single day. So there's no part of my job that I look at and say, well, I'm never going to have to do that again. Yeah. And I really mean it, Right. So I'm going to enjoy it right to the end.
All right. Let's end with something fun. Has there been a senior prank that stands out to you over the course of your life?
Well, I don't even want to talk about it because one of the things about senior pranks is they're always trying to top the one before. Yeah. So if I tell you the best one ever, this group's going to try to top it.
I can tell you, there's no students that have listened to this show for 30 minutes.
Okay. Well, I still have the pictures. There was a pool in the lobby of South Burlington High School in my tenure, and that's pretty legendary. And I'll never forget the students put in one of those those portable pools. So it's in the lobby, and I'm kind of trying to play it, okay, that's funny, and also all right, now there's floors slippery, and I'm just trying to keep it in a box, right? A math teacher comes down from upstairs, and he says to me, hey, just so you know, the lobby isn't the first floor. It's not the ground floor. There's a basement underneath it, and water weighs, and he tells me how much water weighs per cubic foot. And so all of a sudden I was like, oh, this could go down, So we got the fire department over. We pumped the pool out and dumped it outside. But yeah, it was a moment where I was like, wow, that could have really gone badly.
That's great.
But it was a lot of fun. That was a good group, and we try to laugh it off. My rule with senior pranks is nobody gets hurt, and it doesn't create work for somebody else. Our custodians and teachers, they work so hard. We can't be making a mess that other people have to clean up.
Yeah. So to any students watching out there, if there's a swimming pool in the lobby, we're canceling graduation. You will not walk. You will not walk.
That's it. Yeah.
Hey, Patrick, thanks so much for being here. I wish you all the best. And I thank everybody for either watching this on YouTube or listening on your favorite podcasts. Again, I'm Joe Clark, and this was In the Know. I'll see you next month.